The wind came crawling over the plains like an old dog with nowhere left to go, stirring the dust around the half-rotten posts of Miller Ranch. The sun was still climbing, but it already had that hard edge that made men squint and cattle stagger. Sam Miller leaned against the corral fence, boots cracked, hat low, chewing the inside of his cheek while he watched another one of his last few cows stumble along the trough. The trough was bone dry, so was he. The bank had sent their final notice 2 days ago. Rent was overdue. The crops had failed. The rain hadn't come in 6 months. There were no clouds, only vultures. And yet, Sam stayed, because leaving meant surrendering. And if there was one thing he'd learned from his father, it was that Millers don't surrender, not to drought, not to debt, not to God himself. Then, that morning, the earth trembled. At first, Sam thought it was another hallucination brought on by the heat. The horizon shimmered, the fences rattled, and the sound of metal creaked deep beneath the soil. The cattle looked up and started bawling, stamping nervously. The noise grew louder, thunder, but no clouds. Then he saw her. At first, she was just a blur against the rising sun, a shape too large to be real. But as she came closer, her outline formed, a woman, enormous, striding through the plain like a mountain come alive. Each step sank into the sand, leaving craters big enough to swallow a truck. She wore a hat the size of a barn roof and a duster coat, made of stitched leather hides that shimmered like copper. Her eyes glowed like whiskey in lamplight. Sam didn't move. He couldn't. The giant cowgirl stopped just outside his ranch fence, crouching low, her face blocking out the sun. Her voice rolled across the field like thunder. "So you say you can't pay your rent?" Her lips curved into a half smile, half challenge. Sam swallowed hard. You real?" She chuckled, a sound like rocks falling down a canyon. "Depends who's a skin." "You Sam Miller?" "I am," he said cautiously, hand inching toward his rifle, though he knew it wouldn't do a damn thing. "What's it to you?" "I reckon I'm your landlord now," she said, tipping her hat. "Name's Calamity June. Folks call me the tall debt collector." Sam blinked. "That's a cruel joke." "No joke, cowboy." She stood back up, stretching tall against the heavens. "You owe, and I collect. Simple as that." The ground vibrated as she moved, the cows bawling and running toward the barn. Sam's mouth went dry. "And what happens if I can't pay?" June knelt again, eyes narrowing with something like amusement. "Then we find alternate payment." By now, Sam's nerves were fire. "Lady, I got nothin' left but dust and bones. You can take what's left of the ranch, but you won't find no gold buried here." June grinned, teeth glinting like polished ivory. "Gold? I don't want gold. I want something rarer, something only the desperate have left." She leaned closer until her breath rustled his hair. "Grit." Sam frowned. "Grit? That's stubborn, mill-headed kind that don't quit even when the sky's against you. I'm building something out there, in the high desert, something that needs men who still know how to stand tall when the wind's trying to break 'em. You come with me, you work, you pay your rent with sweat instead of silver." He looked her over, heart pounding. She was massive, yes, but there was something righteous in her stance, like she wasn't just some monster come to crush him. She was testing him. "What's the job?" he asked. She smiled, slow and dangerous. "You'll see when we get there." He hesitated. "And if I say no?" Her shadow deepened. "Then this ranch turns to sand before the next sunrise." The silence stretched. The wind hissed through the dry grass like a whisper from hell. Sam took off his hat, looked at the land his father had bled for, and then back at the towering cowgirl. Finally, he said, "Guess I ain't got much choice, do I?" June's laughter boomed across the plains. "Always a choice, cowboy. But not all choices pay off the same." She offered a hand big enough to lift a house. Sam hesitated only a second before stepping onto her palm. Her skin was warm like sun-baked stone. As she straightened, the whole ranch fell away beneath them. He could see miles of broken land, rivers of dust, and far off in the distance a strange light glowing over the horizon. "What's that?" he asked. June tilted her head. "That's where the world still remembers how to grow. And that's where you'll earn back every debt you ever owed." With that, she started walking, each step carrying them closer to a horizon Sam had never seen before. Behind them, the Miller Ranch cracked apart in the sunlight, dust swirling into the sky like ghosts. Ahead, the light grew brighter. The night bled into the horizon, as Calamity June strode through the wasteland, each of her footfalls echoing like thunder over the empty plain. Sam Miller sat perched in her palm, his coat whipping in the high desert wind. The stars were clear tonight to clear. Out here, it felt like the heavens were watching, waiting to see what became of the man who couldn't pay his rent. They traveled for hours, the ranch long behind them, until the land began to shift. The cracked earth gave way to black soil that shimmered faintly, as if lit from beneath. Strange shapes dotted the plain metal towers twisted with vines, the ruins of old windmills still turning without wind. And in the distance, a glow pulsed like a heart. June finally stopped beside a ridge, her massive hand tilted, and Sam slid down to the ground, boots sinking into the warm soil. The air smelled faintly of sage and fire. "Where are we?" he asked. "The Bloomfields," she said softly, lowering herself to sit cross-legged. "Once the richest land in the West, now it's where the earth comes to remember." Sam frowned. "Remember what?" June looked down at him, eyes catching the starlight. "Everything men tried to take." He turned a slow circle, taking in the dark expanse. "And this is where you bring folks who can't pay." "Not all of them," she said. "Some debts can't be worked off. But you," she paused, looking him over like a craftsman sizing up raw timber. "You got something left that most men spend before their first failure." "What's that?" "Hope." Sam gave a bitter laugh. "Hope don't feed cattle." "No," she agreed. "But it builds new land when the old one's gone to dust." She reached into her coat and pulled out something small by her scale, anyway. It was a seed, black as coal, glowing faintly red from within. She held it out between two fingers, lowering it toward him. "This here's a memory seed," she said. "Planted by the desperate, watered by sweat and grit. It grows only for those who still believe in something bigger than themselves." He stared at it, unsure whether to touch it. "And what happens if I plant it?" Her voice dropped low. "Then you start paying back your debt with faith." The seed pulsed once, as if alive. Sam hesitated, then took it. It was warm, heavy, like holding a beating heart. He knelt down and dug into the soil with his bare hands. It wasn't dry, it gave easily, soft and rich, smelling of life. He planted the seed, covered it, and stood back. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the ground trembled. A faint glow spread from beneath the soil, pulsing brighter and brighter until a stalk burst forth green as spring. Strong as iron, it grew higher than Sam's head, then twisted and split into branches heavy with golden fruit. The fruit shimmered with light, each one reflecting the sky like glass. Sam stumbled back, eyes wide. "What in God's name?" June smiled, pride glinting in her eyes. "That's your grit, Cowboy. You just grew something the desert forgot it could hold." He reached out, touched one of the fruits. It was cool to the touch, humming faintly. "What's it worth?" She chuckled. "To me, everything. To the world, maybe nothing. Depends what you do with it." They worked through the night. June's enormous hands dug trenches while Sam planted more seeds. With each one, the desert around them began to shift, black soil blooming with green light, dry air thickening with mist. The stars overhead blurred behind rising clouds. By dawn, the Bloomfields were alive again. Sam stood there, exhausted, his shirt clinging with sweat, watching the sunrise spill over the growing fields. For the first time in years, he felt the wind carry the scent of water. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen anything so beautiful. June crouched beside him, hat low over her eyes. "You done good," she said. "Debt's almost paid." "Almost?" Sam asked. Her gaze drifted to the horizon, where storm clouds were forming. "There's always something left. The land gives, but it don't forget. It'll test you before it lets you stay." As she spoke, the ground rumbled again, not with life this time, but with something darker. The glow from the seeds flickered. Sam turned to see a wave of black smoke rising from the west, swallowing the horizon. June stood, her shadow casting half the field in darkness. "The burners," she muttered. "I was hoping they wouldn't catch the scent so soon." "Burners?" Sam asked, backing up. "Men who lost their faith. They come to take from those who still got it." She looked down at him, eyes sharp as steel. "You wanted to pay your rent, rancher? Time to earn the deed." Without warning, she reached into the soil, pulled out a glowing whip of light, and handed the other end to Sam. "Hold it tight. Don't let go, no matter what you see." Before he could ask how, the smoke hit the fields. Shapes emerged, men made of ash and fire, faces twisted, eyes hollow. They shrieked as they charged, turning the green to flame. Sam's instincts kicked in. He swung the whip, and light flared, cutting through the smoke. The whip cracked like thunder, each strike carving holes in the darkness. But for every burner he dropped, 2 more rose. "June," he yelled. "There's too many." The giant cowgirl laughed, wild and fierce. "Good, the land don't pay back easy." She stomped forward, each step sending shockwaves through the ground. Her whip lashed the air, scattering the burners like sparks. Sam fought beside her, sweat stinging his eyes, lungs burning, but the fear in him turned to fire. At last, the smoke began to clear. The burners fell back into ash. The fields still burned, but beneath the flame, the green refused to die. When silence finally returned, Sam dropped to his knees. June knelt beside him again, her voice softer now. "You fought for it," she said. "That's the only rent the land ever really asks." He looked up at her, face streaked with soot. "So what now?" June smiled faintly. "Now you tend it, grow it, teach others what you learned here tonight. When they say they can't pay their rent, show 'em how to fight for it." The morning sun broke through the clouds, spilling gold over the reborn fields. Sam stood, shoulders heavy but heart light, and when he looked up, Calamity June was already walking away, her silhouette fading into the light like a mirage. Her voice carried back on the wind, low and proud.